The moonlight reflected upon the still waters, bathing the monastery in silver light. The Buddha sat beneath the ancient Bodhi tree. His disciples gathered around him, their robes brushing the earth as they settled into quiet observation. The night carried a hushed reverence. One disciple hesitated before speaking. "Master, how do we listen deeply and understand the truth hidden within words?" The Buddha smiled, his gaze steady, warm. True listening begins with silence. Empty your mind, and only then can wisdom enter. He picked up a small clay bowl, turning it in his hands. If the bowl is full, nothing more can be added. The disciples watched, their breaths slowing, their minds aligning with the quiet presence before them. The Buddha poured water into the bowl until it overflowed. If your thoughts are cluttered, there is no space for new understanding. One among them, Ananda, asked, "Master, how do we empty the mind to truly receive another's words?" The Buddha placed the bowl down and closed his eyes. Begin by listening to the wind, the rustling of the leaves. The disciples followed his lead, their senses attuning to the faintest whispers of the night around them. The Buddha opened his eyes once more. Hear not only what is spoken but also what remains unsaid. A firefly danced in the air before settling upon the Buddha's outstretched palm. As this firefly moves without resistance, so should the mind in its receiving. Do not clutch, allow words to pass through. The disciples contemplated his words. Among them, Sariputta furrowed his brow. "Master, how do we remove judgment when listening?" The Buddha placed the firefly onto a leaf and watched it take flight. Judgment is rooted in attachment. Release it, and clarity remains. He turned his gaze upon his disciples, his voice carrying the weight of simple truth. A man hears another speak, and before the words are finished, he has already decided their meaning. The disciples nodded in understanding, realizing their own tendencies. Listen with patience, the Buddha continued. Do not seek to answer. Seek only to understand. The monastery fell silent, the night deepening around them. One disciple, hesitant, whispered, "But what if misunderstanding still remains?" The Buddha's gaze softened. Then you listen again, and again. True understanding does not come in haste. A breeze carried the scent of jasmine through the air. The disciples closed their eyes, absorbing the presence of wisdom before them. You are not here to prove yourself right, the Buddha said, but to discover truth beyond the limits of your own mind. The rustling leaves danced against the quiet of his words. The greatest listener is the one who knows when silence is stronger than speech. The disciples bowed their heads, absorbing the lesson carried in quiet wisdom. The night stretched forward, carrying the teachings beyond the moment, into the depths of their souls. Another day, another lesson beneath the great Bodhi tree. The disciples gathered, their robes whispering against the ground as they sat. The village below buzzed with life. Merchants calling, children laughing, voices weaving together like threads in a great tapestry. The Buddha's gaze rested upon the scene. He observed without judgment, listening beyond the noise to the silence between words. One disciple hesitated before speaking. "Master, how do we use words wisely so others truly hear their meaning?" The Buddha picked up a handful of earth, feeling its weight in his palm. Words, like soil, can nurture or suffocate growth. The disciple frowned in thought. How do we ensure our words do not become burdens but offerings of understanding? The Buddha let the earth slip through his fingers, scattering upon the ground. Speak not to conquer, but to connect. He motioned toward the village, where a potter shaped clay with delicate hands. Observe the potter, he said. Each touch shapes the clay, forming or breaking what could become whole. The disciples watched, understanding deepening as the potter smoothed imperfections, his hands moving with patience and care. Words, the Buddha continued, can heal like a gentle touch or wound like a careless blow. One disciple, Sariputta, asked, "How do we learn the difference between healing words and words that bring harm?" The Buddha took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of jasmine drifting through the air. Ask yourself before speaking, does this bring wisdom, peace, or kindness? If not, silence may serve better. The monastery bell echoed in the distance, a clear sound cutting through the chatter of the village below. "Listen to the bell," the Buddha said. "It does not shout to be heard, yet its presence carries far." The disciples closed their eyes, attuning their senses to the sound, its resonance settling within them. Words should carry weight, not force. Let them ring like the bell, clear, steady, with purpose. A child in the village laughed, his joy carrying through the market as he played with an elder's walking stick. The Buddha smiled. The laughter of a child speaks more wisdom than the endless arguments of men. The disciples sat in contemplation, absorbing the quiet simplicity of his truth. One disciple finally asked, "Master, how do we ensure our words are received as intended?" The Buddha reached for a bowl of water, dipping his fingers into its cool surface. Sometimes, words are heard through the lens of another's experience. Their mind distorts what was meant to be clear. He lifted the bowl, showing how ripples distorted his reflection. Even the purest words may be misunderstood if the listener's mind is troubled. The disciple nodded, realization settling into his heart. Then how do we speak when misunderstanding remains? He asked. The Buddha placed the bowl down, watching the ripples settle. You listen again. You wait. In time, understanding may come when the listener is ready to receive. The disciples sat in silent contemplation, feeling the depth of his wisdom in the stillness around them. The village continued its rhythm. Merchants bartering, mothers soothing their children, elders sharing stories beneath the banyan tree. The Buddha watched, his voice carrying softly in the evening breeze. Speak with care, listen with patience, and let understanding grow as a seed takes root in fertile soil. The disciples bowed their heads, their hearts carrying the lesson beyond words, into the depths of their souls. Another day, another gathering beneath the sacred Bodhi tree. The disciples sat in quiet reflection, waiting for the Buddha's words to unfold. The morning sun touched the horizon, casting golden light upon the monastery walls. Birds sang their gentle songs, filling the silence. The Buddha rested his gaze upon his disciples. His expression carried warmth, his presence a steady force in the shifting world. One disciple hesitated, then spoke. Master, we listen, we speak with care, yet some still fail to understand us. Why is this so? The Buddha picked up a stone, turning it in his hands. Understanding is not given, it must arise from within the listener's heart. The disciple frowned, his brow furrowed. But Master, how do we reach those who refuse to hear our words? The Buddha placed the stone upon the earth. You do not force understanding. You allow it to grow, like water carving the rock. The disciples listened, absorbing the quiet wisdom in his voice, feeling the weight of patience settle within them. Truth is not a weapon, the Buddha continued. Do not use it to strike, but to illuminate. He lifted the stone again, showing its smooth surface, worn by time and the gentle touch of rain. Some minds are like stone, resistant at first, but even the hardest rock yields to steady, patient water. The disciple nodded slowly, realization dawning. So we do not push understanding, but offer it like flowing water? The Buddha smiled. Exactly. A river does not demand the mountain to move. It simply finds its way through. The wind stirred the leaves, carrying the scent of earth and jasmine. The monastery bells rang in the distance. Another disciple, Sariputta, asked, Master, how do we know when to speak and when to remain silent? The Buddha reached for a lotus flower, holding it gently between his fingers. Like the lotus, words should open naturally, not be forced from the bud before their time. He placed the flower upon the water, watching it float with effortless grace. Silence is not absence. It is a space where wisdom can grow. When words serve no purpose, silence is the better offering. The disciples closed their eyes, feeling the depth of his teaching in the stillness surrounding them. One disciple whispered, "But Master, if silence is stronger than words, why do we ever need to speak at all?" The Buddha touched the water, disturbing its surface slightly. Speech carries wisdom when spoken with intent, not impulse. He withdrew his hand, watching as the ripples slowly faded into stillness. A single word can turn the tide of a troubled heart, but reckless words churn the waters without direction. The disciple sighed, looking down at his hands. "I fear speaking without purpose. How do I ensure my words serve truth?" The Buddha met his gaze with kindness. Ask yourself, will these words bring peace? Will they open understanding? The monastery grew quiet again, the disciples reflecting upon his wisdom, feeling its weight settle into their hearts. The sun continued its slow ascent, casting soft light upon the ancient Bodhi tree. The Buddha stood, his voice carrying in the gentle breeze. Listen not only to the words spoken, but to the words unspoken. The heart often speaks louder in silence than in sound. The disciples bowed their heads, carrying the lesson beyond the moment, letting it live within them, beyond the limits of speech. The sound of truth, Buddha said, is carried not in words alone but in the silence that follows understanding. Ravi bowed deeply. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.